Okay, so I'm going to see what I can do with this piece of stone. I'm thinking it's raw, but as I was taking off the square edges off this little piece of slab, it felt, really good as far as knappability. So it might be heat treated, but if it is, it doesn't feel like it's all the way heat treated. Just partially. It hasn't been taken to a high enough temperature to make it glass-like, but just partially there, and then cool down, of course. But it could be raw too, just high quality. I don't see any cracks in it. As I was working it, I didn't feel any issues as far as difference in consistency, so it should be pretty good. Right now it's kind of thin for the width. Let's see. Should have done this earlier. It's not quite a 1/4 inch thick. Slightly less, like 7/32 or something. And right now it's 1 inch and 5/8 wide. So I kind of want to have 4:1 or at the most 5:1 ratio with the thickness. But I am going to narrow it down and make a less wide piece than this. It's going to be difficult to run thinning flakes on something already this thin. So let's see. We'll see what happens. I always get questions on heat treating, and all that means is, or what they used to do is they used to bury the stone in the ground and build a fire on top of it to raise the temperature of the stone for a little while, and let it cool back down, and then take it out, unbury it. And usually you have 1 inch or 2 of sand or soil above the stone. Everything's dry, of course. You dry it out by building a fire there first. Then you bury the stuff underneath the fire, 1 to 2 inches, depending on how big the fire is. And the heat will penetrate down into the ground and warm the rock. It heat treats between 300 and 600 degrees. And a lot of fires are actually pretty hot. You can get up to 600 degrees pretty easy. So you don't want to build a big fire. I know a guy that uses charcoal briquettes and 1 inch of soil or sand on top, and just charcoal, 1 layer of charcoal briquettes, and I guess that brings it up to about 350 degrees. But don't quote me on that. That's just, it seems to work for him in the area he's at. He uses or he heat treats coral, petrified coral. Anyway, that's what heat treating means. You just heat the stone to a temperature between 300 and 600 degrees. Some stones can go higher or require a higher temperature than 600. But Alibates requires about 350 to 450 in my experience. You let it sit there for 1 to 4 hours at that temperature, and then cool it down slowly. In my case, I use a turkey roaster, so I just turn off the heat completely, let it cool down for 12 hours, take it out and work it. But I got videos on that, so if you do a search of my videos, as long as YouTube hasn't changed the search function, usually you can go to someone's channel and go to their videos, and then there's a search field. Type in what something that would be included in the title of the video, and it'll bring up all the videos that have that keyword in the title. So you just search search my videos for heat treating. The latest ones are obviously the best. A lot of people have seen or continue to watch my older videos, older than a year old. And some of those, when I watch them, I kind of cringe because they're outdated. For me, some of my techniques have changed, but they may still be of benefit to some of you new guys. But yeah, if you look at my heat treating videos or my tool videos, the latest ones or the most recent are going to be the best. Now, I recently had a question, can I do some videos on using natural materials on raw stone like Alibates, use antler, none of this metal stuff and none of these artificial aerators. And yes, I will do those. In fact, I'm going to be switching over to all natural materials very soon, except for just a few instances where the stone is too tough to work with antler. I'll use a metal. But for the most part, my plan is to use or to switch over completely to natural materials on my videos. And I'll be using primarily heat treated stone with when I use the antler and bone and stone tools. Of course, it can be worked raw. You can work raw stone. A lot of guys want to see how to work raw stone with antler and bone and stone. And it's not pretty. In a lot of cases, it's just if you're having problems and it's frustrating, it's frustrating for everybody. There is no magic technique for working raw stone or any kind of tough stone. It just requires practice and maybe some imagination. Change up your techniques to match the stone. Try something new if something that you're doing is not working. But I'll get into that. But if you're having extreme difficulty with raw stone, with antler, it's not you, it's the materials. There's a reason why copper works well. There's a reason why aluminum works well. It's because it concentrates the force very well on the stone and causes cracks and initiations easily, whereas something spongy like antler will not cause those initiations as easily. And when they do, or when you find something hard enough to work with and you're hitting, it'll catch the edge and it'll produce all kinds of bending stresses before it actually pops off a flake. It's rubbery. It feels rubbery compared to metal, of course. But antler and bone is flexible. So you're going to create a catching for a millisecond. You'll catch the edge and it'll deform around the edge and you'll be pulling on it. You won't see it, but you'll be pulling on it and creating bending in your work, and that can snap it. Whereas if you use metal, it does catch, but it doesn't catch as long, and that initiation will pop off a flake sooner, and it won't give the material enough time usually to bend enough to crack. And when you use a percussion technique, that initiation is even faster. So you can remove pretty large flakes with percussion without snapping it because of that reason. It initiates the crack faster with percussion. Of course, when you use a billet, that's considered direct percussion. I'm talking about percussion with a hammerstone or something hard. If that made sense. Okay, what I'm trying to do now is I'm trying to figure out a way to get rid of this. And I'm not sure if that was me or if that's just some weird stuff going on in the stone. It's not the usual step fracture. This one is my mistake here. This one I don't know if it was just... Oh, I'll have to probably come in from the back side to get that one off. If I can thin this thing down just by sending flakes across right now and getting rid of these flat spots, then I can shape it on around the outside without worrying too much. So I think that's what I'll do, but I do want to get it more narrow. Sorry about that. Almost tipped over the camera. Let's see, let me secure that tripod a little bit better. Yeah, it's probably raw because I can usually hit a flake off easily if it's heat treated with the braiding material. Now I didn't quite turn it the right way for what I was doing just there. Let's see if I can explain this. I turned the edge to be closer to this side over here. Right? I pressure flaked it, kind of beveled it to shoot flakes on this side. But I was actually removing flakes from this side, near the tip. Because it looked kind of, looked like it had too much mass on this side. So even though I turned the edge toward this side to run flakes here, I was hitting on this side here. So sometimes I'll switch it up and I won't hit below center line all the time, and it might confuse some people. I just wanted to explain that. Now the edge is, turned that way quite a bit. So I wouldn't want to continue to hit that way, but just a few minutes ago or a few seconds ago, I was able to use that edge to remove some flakes. Like this one here also, I can hit here to remove this little bump before I start sending flakes across that side, and maybe some to, I might be able to hit here and go upward to remove that bump. Yeah, I'm getting these strange terminations. So yeah, I have to be aggressive so I can just plow through the material, and the terminations can be removed from the other side. If it terminates in a strange manner, I can just remove those terminations from the other side. Instead of having that weird termination close to this edge, if it's close to that edge, I can remove it. If it's close to this edge, it's hard to remove. Okay. Being aggressive just means you got to hit harder than usual. So yeah, I was not able to do that. And with heat treated stone, that's a lot easier, because the edge of that flake can usually remove trouble spots if it's easy to flake. But if it's not easy to flake, if it's tough and raw, any obstacle will stop the travel of the flake, and it'll snap and create a step fracture. This one isn't bad. I mean, termination isn't bad there, but it's starting to create an island on this side, so I can't hit it from anywhere. If you can't attack it from anywhere, I don't know if it's a customary definition or not, but it's starting to create an island where you cannot attack it without creating more step fractures. So you have to come from some other angle. Sometimes you can create a really strong platform. I'm going to try here and try to hit into that island one more time. Yeah, I didn't hit nearly hard enough. That was really bad. As far as I was supposed to hit a lot harder than that. Okay, anyway, I'm going to have to come in from the other side. See, that's what I mean about strange termination. If you get it far enough away from the edge, you can come in from the other side. Thing is, it's getting pretty dicey with the thinness, so I can't do that much. I can't do that too many times. Run a thinning pass. You're limited to the number of thinning passes you can run, if you know what I mean, on a slab. See, now that it's that thin, I can only run one thinning pass on this side too. It seems to be pretty good, except for the terminations, but the material seems to be pretty good for running relatively long flakes with percussion. Now, some of you guys are very good at pressure. You can run those with pressure, but it's for another time. I'll do videos like that eventually. See, the angle of the attack is important too. When you're attacking step fractures, it's important to come up with a good angle. Of course, I could have also come in straight in, right? To match, the angle here, you could come in straight opposite to to match the pattern of the flake scars, but I like to come in, I guess they call it a herringbone pattern, where it's like a V. Okay, and then try to do it that way, because now there's only a little bit of area that needs to be cleared off that's original. Well, I think I actually got all the original surface off. So there's just a little bit of flaking involved in getting the rest of it flattened. You know what I mean? I don't need to send long flakes anymore. Just a couple here. Well, in theory. Again, I gotta watch those terminations. See that? I try to get a little flake to smooth it out, and they end up terminating in that weird way. So I just gotta watch that. Anyway. Okay, so that side's good enough for now. When I get it more narrow, I can run some cosmetic flakes. But for now, this side's good enough. I'm going to continue on the next video for the other side.